Welcome back to the Canadian Dietitian School Tube Feed series, where today we are going to talk about how to calculate and write orders. Previous videos covered the steps of completing a nutrition assessment and considering the risk of refeeding syndrome. To calculate and write tube feed orders, I am going to introduce you to the tube feed GIRAFFE. GIRAFFE is an acronym that you can use to remember all the parts of your tube feed order. If you remember the giraffe, you'll have a complete order. Let's spell giraffe. G-I-R-A-F-F-E. G for goal, I for initiation, R for requirements, A for advancement, F for formula, F for fluid, and E for extras. GIRAFFE is our acronym with all the pieces, but we actually need to reorder the letters a little bit so that we do the work in the correct logical order. Let's pull the R and the first F to the front. So we actually have R-F-G-I-R-A-F-E. Why? Because we need to figure out the requirements and formula first. Also, RF could stand for refeeding, and we know how considerations of refeeding risk comes first. Let's go through each letter of our tube feed giraffe now that we have pulled the RF to the front. We need to calculate requirements, choose the formula, choose the goal provision, create an initiation plan, create an advancement plan, choose water flush amounts and calculate total fluid provision, and communicate any extra instructions. I think the best way to learn how to use the tube feeding giraffe is to work through an example. Get out your calculators and follow along. Let's say we have a 68-year-old male who requires tube feeds because he has significant dysphagia after a recent stroke. He is at a mild risk of refeeding syndrome as he has recently lost 5% of his body weight, and when he was admitted his potassium was low but has since been repleted. He is 76 kilos and 177 centimeters tall, which gives him a BMI of 24.3. Let's remember giraffe with the RF pulled to the front. R, requirements. Let's calculate this patient's requirements as 25 to 30 calories per kilo. His BMI is appropriate for his age, but he has lost weight recently. Because his BMI is appropriate, we can use his actual weight. 76 kilos times 25 calories per kilo equals 1,900 calories. 76 kilos times 30 calories per kilo equals 2,280 calories. This patient's requirements are between 1,900 and 2,280 calories per day. Let's also look at protein and fluid requirements. We don't know much about this patient, but he is a senior who has lost weight. I would likely estimate his protein requirements as 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilo, which is 76 to 91 grams per day. For fluid requirements, as described in a tool developed by the NCPT, Aspen recommends 20 to 40 mils per kilo per day, or 1 to 1.5 mils per calorie of energy expended. We don't really know how much energy a patient expends, but when we are aiming for weight stability, we are expecting that our goal calorie provision is meeting their calorie needs, which is why it's generally acceptable to provide 1 to 1.5 mils per calorie provided by the tube feed. Of course, a patient's clinical picture must be taken into account, and various medical conditions that may contribute to fluid overload and indicate the need for a fluid restriction must be taken into account. For simplicity, we will consider our patient's fluid requirements to be about 2160 mils per day. Next step, F, formula. Let's pick a formula for this patient. We don't have any reason to think that this patient needs a specialized formula. From the information given, we can assume a standard polymeric formula containing fiber would be appropriate. For the purposes of this example, I will choose Nestle's Isosource Fiber 1.5. Next step, G, goal. We calculated the requirements, but we need to choose the goal provision. Let's see what volume and rate our requirements would provide. To give 1,900 calories with our 1.5 calorie per mil formula, we would provide 1266.7 mils, which is 52.8 mils per hour over 24 hours. To give 2,280 calories per day with our 1.5 calorie per mil formula, we would provide 1520 mils, which is 63.3 mils per hour. We need to give somewhere between 53 and 63 mils per hour. I would likely pick 60 mils per hour for convenience. If we set our goal at 60 mils per hour, then we will provide 1440 mils of formula, which will provide 2160 calories, which is 28.4 calories per kilo. We can also calculate the protein and fluid provision from this formula. Isosource fiber 1.5 has 68 grams of protein per liter. We are giving 1.44 liters, so we will exceed our patient's protein requirements just a little bit by giving a total of 97.9 grams of protein, or 1.3 grams per kilo. Lastly, we can calculate the fluid provision. Isosource fiber 1.5 is 77% free water, so by giving 1440 ml of formula, we are giving 1109 ml of water. Next step, I, initiation. What rate are we going to start the tube feed at? We're going to run this tube feed continuously over 24 hours. We don't have a super strong recommendation for appropriate starting rate. With mild refeeding risk, we want to start somewhat slow, giving 10 to 20 calories per kilo in the first 24 hours. In my experience, tube feeds will often be started somewhere between 10 ml per hour and 25 ml per hour. For our patient, let's start at 15 ml per hour. Next step, advancement. We picked a starting rate and a goal rate, but how will we get from 15 ml per hour up to 60 ml per hour? Our refeeding guidelines suggest 10 to 20 calories per kilo in the first 24 hours, and to advance by 1/3 of goal every 1 to 2 days. Some typical advancements are to increase by 5 to 15 ml per hour every 8 to 12 hours. That might look like 5 ml per hour every 8 or 12 hours, likely more in a high-risk refeeding or intolerance situation, 10 ml per hour every 8 or 12 hours, or 15 ml per hour every 8 or every 12 hours. Other advancement rates are also possible and appropriate. It all depends on how cautious or how aggressive you want to feed. For our case, we can try advancing by 15 ml per hour every 12 hours. We should double check that this is within the refeeding guidelines and that this will get us to the goal in a reasonable time frame. Let's pretend that the nurses will start this feed at noon today and walk ourselves through the advancements. 12 o'clock p.m., 15 ml per hour. Midnight, 30 ml per hour. 12 o'clock p.m. the next day, 45 ml per hour. Midnight that night, 60 ml per hour. We can see that it's going to take us 1.5 days to reach our goal. In the first 24 hours, the patient will get 15 ml per hour for 12 hours and then 30 ml per hour for 12 hours. 15 ml per hour times 12 equals 180 ml. 30 ml per hour times 12 hours equals 360 ml. This means that in the first 24 hours, we have given 540 ml of formula, which is 810 calories or 10.7 calories per kilo, which is within our guideline of 10 to 20 calories per kilo in the first 24 hours. Over the following 12 hours, we give an additional 540 ml, another 810 calories. If the patient is showing signs of refeeding at this point, we may need to slow down our advancement. But if the patient's labs are looking good, we would not want to delay their getting adequate nutrition. Next step, F, fluids. When we talked about requirements, we set the patient's fluid requirements at 1 ml per kilo or 2160 ml per day. When we calculated the goal rate, we determined that we would give 1440 ml of formula, but we know formula is not 100% water. We did determine how much free fluid is in the formula because isosource fiber 1.5 is 77% water, which gives us a free fluid amount of 1109. We give 1109 ml in the formula alone, but our patient needs 2160 ml per day. We need to give additional fluids as water flushes. Something we always need to check when ordering water flushes for a tube feeding patient is the frequency of medications that are being given through the tube. Sometimes patients are getting medications 7 or 8 times per day, and this can result in a lot of extra fluid provision. Let's say our patient is getting medications through the tube 4 times per day. When we give medications through the tube, it's common practice to flush the tube before giving the medication to ensure the tube is patent, and then flush the tube after the medication administration to ensure the medication has gone through the tube into the patient's body and to keep the tube clean from medication debris, which can clog the tube. We need to determine how much water should be flushed before and after medications 4 times per day and what additional fluids may need to be given. Typical water flush volumes will vary depending on the site and the size of syringes that are stocked. In my workplace, water flushes could be 30, 50, 60, 80, 100, 120, 150, 180, 200, or 250 mils. There's really no rules on what number a flush could be. For our patient, let's choose to give him 60 mils before and after medications. He gets medications 4 times a day, and we will flush the tube before and after each medication time, making this a total of 8 flushes per day. 60 mils times 8 equals 480 mils of fluid. Now we have 1109 mils from the formula, 480 mils from medication flushes, giving our patient a total of 1589 mils of free water per day. We still need to give an additional 571 mils. It is common practice to flush the tube every 4 to 6 hours while on continuous feeds to keep the tube patent. If we add a 100 ml water flush every 4 hours, so 6 times per day, then we will add another 600 mils of water for our patient. Our total fluids will be 1109 mils from formula, 480 mils from med flushes, and 600 mils from the Q4 or every 4 hour water flushes, for a total of 2189 mils, which is 28.8 mils per kilo and is appropriate for our patient. Next step, E, extras. Extras is about communicating any additional points in our tube feed plan to the nurses who are going to see and follow the tube feed orders we provide. These could be if-this orders, such as if a patient is eating orally and getting supplemental tube feeds. If a patient eats 25% of their meals, give 200 mils of formula. If the patient eats 50% of their meals, give 100 mils of formula. And if a patient eats 75% of their meals or more, hold the tube feed. An extra could also be something like instructions for transitioning from one type of feed to another, such as when transitioning from continuous feeds to bolus feeds, you may provide an instruction such as hold feeds at midnight and start bolus schedule as follows tomorrow morning with breakfast. Extras is just saying anything about the tube feed plan that isn't captured by the order itself. For our patient, we don't have any extras to communicate. Now that we have the whole giraffe, we can put all of our order together. Depending where you are, you may or may not have electronic entry, and the format of your order will look different on different systems. I need to write my tube feed order out when I'm communicating in my chart note, and this is the format I like to use. Initiate, formula name, at start rate, and advance by advancement rate, every advancement hours, to the goal rate of goal rate. Water flush, mils for med flushes, before and after medications, and mils for other flushes every hour increment of water flushes. Then my instructions of any extras. For our patient, this will say, initiate isosource fiber 1.5 at 15 mils per hour and advance by 15 mils per hour every 12 hours to the goal rate of 60 mils per hour. Water flush 60 mils before and after medications and 100 mils every 4 hours. That's it. That's how I use the tube feed giraffe to make sure that I have all the components of the order. Thank you so much for following along, and I hope you'll tune in for more clinical nutrition learnings.